Alpha Bulletin number 5, May 17, 2006. On Tuesday, May 16, 2006, faculty, librarians, and staff veterinarians at the University of Guelph voted yes to the University of Guelph Faculty Association formally unionizing. Soon, we will begin bargaining for our first collective agreement. A collective agreement, as the name implies, pulls together all aspects that affect you in your workplace. Thus, it would include all things that we now find by looking through the special plan agreement, faculty policy, salary agreements, and a whole host of other documents written at different times by different groups with different levels of input from you, the faculty. This agreement will not only be binding in principle, but also swiftly enforceable under the Labor Relations Act. Now, negotiating a first collective agreement is hard work. From past experiences, we know that these negotiations can last many months, maybe even a year. However, over many years of discussing policies, salary structures, and establishing working practices, Alpha and the administration have already developed much that might become part of this first collective agreement. In the past, we've been frustrated and discouraged with the difficulties of making progress, and we are excited now to be working on our first collective agreement. Alpha! 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 Alpha!
I am Alice de Sumley, president of the University of Guelph. I heard you were doing this little play thing, and I thought I'd pop by and clear up a little bit about the administration's position on this whole business. I feel it behoves me to first mention that, as glorious an image as all of us have of what a university is, we must not forget that in the end, like everything else, the university runs on money. And without money, it would shut its doors. And should the collective agreement pass in the version proposed by the University of Guelph Faculty Association, the money needed to pay for their proposals may well have to come from an increase in tuition fees.
Aw, stop trying to scare everyone.
The university can afford it.
You're the one who raises tuition just to line your pockets.
Corporate fat hat.
Universities are not private businesses. We are not here to make money off the students. We are publicly run. Currently, 63% of the University of Guelph's $344.6 million operating budget comes from provincial funding.
63% of your mom comes from provincial funding.
And despite promises and grandiose statements on the contrary, the government of Ontario is consistently underfunding post-secondary students. Their Reaching Higher plan, introduced in 2005, promised full funding for every student in universities in Ontario. However, their estimates of how many students would enter university was low, by 14,000 students, and it has been up to the universities to pick up that slack. At the University of Guelph, as at universities across the province, this has led to deficit after deficit. The 2007-2008 budget was expected to have a $19.7 million structural deficit, a situation which was only resolved following an unexpectedly high enrollment at Guelph and a one-time grant of $14 million from the province.
Save your ass.
This was a bailout, mind you, and not a long-term solution. The picture for next year is no more hopeful. And even after the bailout, the university is still over $1 million in the red. And meanwhile, projects that desperately need attention remain ignored, such as paying down our large debts and fixing our crumbling buildings. I sincerely apologize for boring you with statistics and budgets, but it is fundamentally important to understand. Many of the proposals brought to the table by the University of Guelph Association, including benefits packages, research leave pay, and salary increases, will cost a lot of money. And with the provincial government criminally uninterested in helping out, this will likely lead to tuition increases. In the past, we have worked hard to avoid increasing tuition. When the freeze on tuition fees was lifted, the University of Guelph did not increase tuition by the maximum amount. And the tuition increase Guelph did impose was only in response to last year's structural deficit, with which the Ontario government did not help out. Guelph currently has tuition fees lower than most Ontario universities, including Ryerson, Waterloo, Queen's, Toronto, Brock, UOIT, Trent, Laurentian, Laurier, and York. But I can assure you, Should the faculty's proposals pass, we will either be forced to increase tuition fees, cut services, or fire people if we wish to keep the university alive.
Your mom's alive.
Hi there. I'm an employee of the University of Guelph, but I'm not a professor. I'm not studying something important like history of Irish tourism or like making horses try and run faster or fighting fancy plays. I clean up garbage. That's what I do for a living. I'm a custodian, one of over 260 members of QP Local 1334. We're the groundskeepers of the school, the truck drivers, the building mechanics, the painters, the trades workers, folks in the background, keeping this place from literally falling apart. Sorry, you'll have to excuse me. In order to be here, I actually had to wake up early. If you can believe that. I actually worked the night shift at the university. I bet you didn't even know there was a night shift at the university. Sunday to Thursday, 5 nights a week, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. About 70 of us custodians, another 15 or so night porters. You know to turn off the ventilation at night? They say there's only a few people per building, so there's no point ventilating. And then they get in the morning and, if there's a little bit of smell of paint, then they complain to us. Because we're not there until there's a problem. Anyway, I'm getting a bit off topic here. The reason I'm here is that I'd like to let everyone know what's going on with QP Local 1334. You see, it's not just the faculty who have been running into difficulties negotiating with this administration. Over at QP, we're at it since April. The profs talk a lot about how they're fighting over issues that don't relate to the money. I don't mind telling you, for us, it is a lot of money. I mean, maybe a salary increase doesn't mean that much to a prof who's making $130,000 a year, but it means a lot more to someone who's making $33,000 a year and trying to feed a family of 4. And, the members of QP are paid less than any other union on campus, and we're actually paid less than any equivalent union in the province. So, yeah, we're worried about our salaries, we're worried about our benefits. The moment we went into negotiations this time, before we'd even asked for anything, the administration started demanding concession after concession. They want us to increase the amount of money we put into the pension plan without actually increasing our pensions. They wanted to cut our drug plans that only pays for 85% of our medical expenses. Finally, and this is maybe the most insulting of all, they were trying to cut our tuition waiver. Now, we in QP don't get a lot of the same benefits as the faculty, but the one thing that we've always fought for is free tuition for us and for our students. The university spends so much time bragging about how it's making the university more accessible, allowing people to come here. Students graduating who are the first in their families to go to university. And meanwhile, the people who are working here can't even go to university? That just doesn't seem right. Anyway, I've come to that we weren't being greedy during our negotiations. We weren't asking for more. We're just clinging on for dear life to what we have. So, yeah, there was a good chance we would strike. We didn't finally. But, the administration for a long time, they weren't willing to budge, and we couldn't budge. This isn't what we want to do. We love this university. We fought alongside Alistair Summerlee when he was trying to increase the tuition fees. We fought alongside him when he was trying to restore old buildings. That was colleagues back then, essential workers. I guess times changed. Oh, one more thing. Remember, AUGFA represents the faculty, the librarians, and the veterinarians, and they're currently negotiating. QP Local 1334, we just finished negotiating, and we're the trades, maintenance, and service workers. But there are others. The University of Guelph Police Association have a contract that expires in April next year. QP Local 3913 represents Guelph PAs and sessionals, and their contract expires in August 2008. United Steelworkers Local 4120 represents Guelph administrative and technical staff, and their contract expires in April 2008, and they're already in negotiation. And the University of Guelph Food Service Employees Association has a contract that expires in April this year. So